and welcome to Narayana's IAS live session. Students, in today's live session, we are going to discuss a very interesting topic. This topic is important for every individual, every citizen of our country, as well as those preparing for the UPSC examination. So, let's try to understand what this topic is about. So, first of all, from the exam's point of view, you need to understand what is criminal justice system, right? And then you can map this topic under GS paper 2, that is the functioning of the judiciary as well as social justice. Now, why do we understand this topic? One, so that there can be a question in the UPSC examination as it was asked in the year 2017. Though the question was not directly on the criminal justice system, but the question attributed to the criminal justice system. For example, the mob violence is emerging as a serious law and order problem in India, which means because of the inadvocacies in the criminal justice system, mob violence is on the rise. Right? That's the reason you need to have a holistic understanding of the criminal justice system. So, what is the context? The context is that we all know that the Supreme Court has granted bail to Aam Aadmi Party leader Manish Sisodiya, right? Now, this decision of the Supreme Court reaffirms the legal principle in India's criminal justice system. And what is that legal principle? The legal principle is that bail is the norm and bail should be the norm, right? Which means imprisonment or jail term should be an exception. In majority of the cases, an accused person should get bail. This is the norm that the Supreme Court was highlighting. Now, let's try to dwell more into the Supreme Court judgment. First is the reformation of bail as a norm. Now, here, students, the Supreme Court criticized the lower courts like the high courts and district courts. Why? Because the lower courts refused to grant bail. Now, as the lower courts refuse to grant bail, an accused person has to spend more number of days in the jail. Which means until the guilt of a person is proved, an accused person should not be in jail, should be outside on bail. Which means bail should be the norm. Yes, if the guilt of an accused person is proved, of course, the court will pronounce him guilty. As long as his guilt is not proved, an accused person cannot be made to rot behind the jail. One. Second, right to a speedy trial, which means that speedy trial is very, very important. Let's say, for example, a person is accused of murder. A kills B, right? Now, B should get justice, no doubt about it. This person A who has killed B, right? Speedy trial is his fundamental right under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which guarantees right to life and personal liberty. Which means if a person is accused of any crime, then he has a right that the trial should be speedy. And in case the trial is slow, then his fundamental right gets violated. Third, interpretation of bail provisions, for example, the CRPC and PMLA. The court held that whenever any judge is hearing the bail application, the judge should take into consideration one, the delay, and then second is the duration of incarceration, that is duration which he has spent in the jail. If the judge feels or thinks that the accused person has spent more number of days behind the bar or behind the prison, then the judge should give him bail. Why? Because bail is the norm, right? So, this is what the Supreme Court highlighted. Now, students, let us know more about the criminal justice system. What is criminal justice system? A kills B, which means the family of B should get justice. Yes. And this person A, because of certain circumstances, he has committed that crime. Now, the society, the system will help that person to get reformed. This is known as criminal justice system, which means there are agencies and processes that the government of India establishes. Why? To administer justice, to control crime and impose penalties who violated the law. Second, this criminal justice system is governed by the CRPC now, which got replaced, sorry, Indian Penal Code, and Indian Penal Code replaced Bharatiya. So, Indian Penal Code was replaced by Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, right? Now, according to Article 246 of the Indian Constitution, subjects such as policing, public order, operating courts, prisons, they fall under the state list. But the irony being, much of these subjects or the states have to abide by the union laws. Why? Because of the laws the Union of India frames. For example, PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, or let's say Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Now, these are the legislations that the Union of India has framed. When it comes to the trial of cases under this law, the states have to abide by the laws made by the Union, right? So, there are four main pillars centered around the Indian criminal justice system. First one is investigation by police, which means police has to investigate the case. What do you mean by investigate? That is, gather the evidence and present before the court. That's it. The second, prosecution of cases. Now, the prosecuting lawyer has to prove in the court that an accused person is guilty, and the guilt has to be beyond reasonable doubt, which means the prosecution lawyer has to prove that this person has committed crime. And how would he prove? By submitting the evidence proving that the person has committed a crime. The third is determination of guilt by courts. Now, it is a duty of the court, not the duty of the media. It's not a media trial. It's a duty of the court to decide whether an accused person is innocent or guilty, right? And next, correction through prison system. Now, students, many people feel that the criminals are sent behind the bar only to be punished. Yes, punishment is one purpose undoubtedly, but the major objective of sending a person or criminal behind the jail is for his reformation, which means, let's assume a person was born on the streets. There was no upbringing for that child, right? So he grew in a slum. He does not know what is right and what is wrong. Why? Because he was not brought by his parents, right? Now, this person has no moral values, no ethical values. Why? Because he did not get education. He had no parents to bring him up. Now, this person, once he grows up, commits a crime, right? Now, the reason why this person will be sent behind the prison is so that through education, through vocational training, that person will undergo reformation, and then he will be rehabilitated so that he can be brought back into the mainstream society. This is the purpose of the prison system of a country. I hope you understood. Now, what are the challenges in the criminal justice system? One, pendency of cases, which means as of 2023, there are over 5 crore cases in different courts of a country. The cases are delayed by an average 30 years. This is a major problem that is actually afflicting or concerning the efficiency of judiciary. Second, judicial vacancies. The target for our country is that we need to have at least 50 judges per million population. Unfortunately, we have less than 50%, that is 21 judges per million people. The third is slow progress in the fast track courts. So, what are fast track courts? These are the courts that dispense justice as quick as possible. But because of the poor infrastructure and the judicial vacancies, the fast track courts are not efficient. The next is abuse of power by the police. Now, as the police have got power, at times they tend to misuse this power, and this is reflected in unlawful detention, custodial violence, where the police beats up a person so badly that at times it leads to custodial death. And then at times the criminal justice system is not accessible to the poor people, or at times it is very complex, and that's the reason people from the marginalized communities do not get the access of judiciary and thus no justice. Perceived biases. At times it seems that the system is biased against the minorities. Why? Because majority of the people in the Indian prisons belong to the minorities or the marginalized sections. And then human rights violation in prisons. Now there are reports of torture, custodial rape, custodial death in the Indian prison. Prisons are a place where a criminal should be reformed, but unfortunately prisons have become a den of illegal activities. Unfortunately, that's the reason it is your task that once you clear the examination, it is your task to reform the criminal justice system. Now, what are the reforms required? First is bail reforms. No doubt we have to undergo bail reforms. We have to take steps so that reforms are done in the bail provisions so that a person should get bail as soon as possible. One. And this is also emphasized by the Law Commission of India's report 268. Second, reviving fast track courts, which means the infrastructure must be upgraded so that justice is dispensed as quick as possible. Third is legal aid program, which means the legal aid program should actually cater to the needs of the marginalized communities, right? Fourth, filling judicial vacancies. Now, in order to fill judicial vacancies, we can think of a system as like the All India Services. So, we can think of All India Judicial Services which can actually help filling the judicial vacancies. And last is application of technology, that is artificial intelligence in the criminal case management. Now, what technology does is it analyzes vast volume of data, right? It analyzes vast volume of data and this will help the judges in better decision making, in sentencing a person and giving parole to the accused person, right? And it also helps the judge to manage the risk of recidivism. Now, what is recidivism? Whenever judge decides whether to give a bail to an accused person or not, the judge actually goes into the history of that person, the history of, let's say, if the person in the past has committed any crime. Now, based on this history, the judge will understand, or it will help the judge to know whether this person should be given bail or not. Why? Because let's say, for example, a person has a history of criminal records, and if the judge gives him let's say bail, this person might further commit crime. So this actually helps a judge, right? Now, America actually uses this compass system wherein it actually helps judges to understand the criminal history of an accused person. These are some of the reforms again that's mentioned. You can just go through it. Again, you can also note it so that you can mention in the mains examination. Now, there are some initiatives taken by the government. One, National Mission for Justice Delivery and Legal Reforms. It actually addresses the pendency of cases in the Indian judiciary. The second one is AI portal Supis, which actually assists the judges in the decision making. The third one is modernization of police scheme, where the infrastructure is upgraded, at the same time technology is integrated in the police system. Then the next is the three criminal laws that we have introduced, for example, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, then the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, and then the Indian Evidence Act, right? These are some of the initiatives taken. And these are some of the commissions established by the government. For example, the first one is National Police Commission. It advocates for judicial inquiries in cases of custodial deaths. What is custodial death? I explained just a while ago. Second is Malimat Committee. It suggested the need for dividing the police or separating the police forces. One should be for the law enforcement. The other one should be for crime investigation. The third one we have is All India Jail Reforms Committee, which emphasize recruiting trained staff in jail administration. And then we have the Krishna Iyer Committee, which recommended appointing women police officers to handle cases involving women and children. These are some of the initiatives. So students, in your UPSC examination, whenever you are dealing with any topic, you have to ensure that you consider various dimensions associated with that topic. For example, in the criminal justice system, what we discuss is one, what is criminal justice system? You need to know what is criminal justice system. Then you need to understand the challenges or problems existing in the criminal justice system. Then you also need to know what can we do in order to change the system. Then the steps that the government of India has undertaken to reform the criminal justice system and the commissions appointed by the government. So these are the different dimensions that you are expected to know of every topic. More dimensions you include in your answer, chances that you might get more marks than your competitors. So always try to include as many dimensions as possible. So in the conclusion, you can mention that in order to ensure that justice is dispensed so that people repose or have trust in the judiciary, it is high time that we undertake comprehensive reforms in the criminal justice system. We also need to ensure that we focus more on the implementation of the reforms that we undertake. This is about the criminal justice system. I hope students you understood each and every dimension associated with the criminal justice system. That's it for the topic. So students, if you want us to continue with the live session, then please do like, share and support Narayana IAS. Thank you so much.